What is up, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global back here with another video, and in this one, we're going to be talking about a highly demanded video from you guys, one that I also did last offseason here for the New England Patriots 2019 draft class, and that is grading their overall 2020 NFL draft class. Now, for anybody that wants to know more about each individual draft selection, I've made individual videos for each and every single one of the guys for their 2020 draft class. I'll put a link in the description to the playlist for all of those videos, so you can go check it out if you would like. Now, before we hop into this video, I got a very special and exclusive deal for all of the fantasy football lovers out there, guys. This is a deal you are not going to want to miss on, especially if you're somebody that's trying to make money, or even if you're somebody that's trying to make sure you do not lose money. This is the first ever and only video training course for fantasy football. In this, you will get optimal players to take in each and every single round of fantasy football. This includes sleeper players, breakout players, and every single thing that you need in order to dominate 2020 NFL fantasy football. Guys, this is big, and it is hosted by and analyzed by the most professional and, actually, believe it or not, the largest authority for fantasy football in the Fantasy Football Counselor. If you are somebody that is trying to make money through fantasy football, if you're someone who just wants to make sure they don't lose money from fantasy football, or you're somebody that just wants to learn or earn rather those bragging rights from their friends or their dad or their brother, then this is the way to do it. I'll leave a link in the description below where you guys can go ahead and check out this package to make sure that you are dominating fantasy football for this upcoming season. But without further ado, let's just hop right into this video now. In the second round, which was the Patriots' first selection out of trading out of the first round with the Chargers to pick up a second and third round, pick number 37 overall, the New England Patriots had selected safety Kyle Duggar. Now, I'm actually going to give this pick an A. At the current time, I was very shocked. I was very confused, to say the least, but after looking into it, after doing information, after looking on highlights, and just doing so much due diligence on this guy, it was a great pick by the New England Patriots. Now, this was actually a guy that, believe it or not, a good amount of teams had above someone like Grant Delpit, Jeremy Chin, and some people even had over Xavier McKinney, who got selected just one pick before Kyle Duggar did. So quite honestly, if the Patriots hadn't selected him when they did, chances are he wouldn't have been there by the Patriots' next pick in the third round. I mean, after learning about this guy, I'm not completely sure how I didn't know more about him, and also why more teams were not talking about him. This guy dominated the NFL Combine and dominated the Senior Bowl. He led the Senior Bowl in tackles, dominated the Combine with his size and speed, and his Combine ranks are pretty great, to be quite honest. I mean, his 42-inch vertical was first. His broad jump ranked second, and his 40-yard dash ranked sixth. The guy is super versatile, which is probably the word I would pick to describe what the Patriots were trying to do for their 2020 draft class. Okay, this guy can play free safety. He can play strong safety. He's even been put at that linebacker position in order to better cover, let's say, wide receivers going through the middle of the field, or even covering running backs out of the backfield. There have not been enough things that have been good enough that have been said about him, for lack of better words there. I mean, his coaches, his teammates, everybody has nothing but compliments for the guy. And somehow, I don't know how this already happened, but he already won over Devin McCourty, who is already praising the rookie on his work ethic. He has crazy athleticism. He's super smart. He has the work ethic to put it in. I honestly don't know how you can ask for a better guy. You're also getting a guy who's going to help you on returns, which the Patriots desperately need. He's a guy who can do kick return and punt return, but mainly does punt returns, and had 6 touchdowns returned when he was a punt returner during his college career. How will the Patriots use him? Well, essentially, we're just going to have to see. I'm sure Bill would love to use him in every single way that he'll be able to, but we'll just have to see how the Patriots elect to use him in this upcoming season. Now, next up in the second round, the Patriots actually traded up in order to get this guy. With pick number 60 overall out of Michigan, the New England Patriots select outside linebacker / edge rusher Josh Uche. I'm going to actually give this one a B+. I think that it's a great pick by the New England Patriots. Fills a really good need. And essentially, I just think the New England Patriots got really good value here for him. A lot of people actually had him higher up. Some people had him higher back. So truly, it just depends on who you talk to determine the feel on Josh Uche. But honestly, I love the move, okay? The connection here between him and Chase Winovich is just outstanding. Of course, both players coming from Michigan. The two are the definition of bros. You know, Chase Winovich was super excited to have him here. Josh Uche was super happy to be back with Chase Winovich on the same team. In fact, the interesting thing here is that Bill Belichick actually went to the rookie Chase Winovich to just be like, hey, all right, so what do you think about some of these players? Were there any players that while you were at Michigan you thought were just outstanding and could really help our team? And he mentioned Josh Uche. I also think that it's worth mentioning that he put pressure on the opposing quarterbacks almost 25% of his snaps. And he got very limited snaps also at that, which I will mention. But his rate at pressuring the quarterback is actually higher than the second overall pick in this year's draft in Chase Young. Another very versatile pick here by the New England Patriots. Now, I do expect him to be more of an edge rusher. I'm super excited to see Chase Winovich on one side, Uche on the other. I think that's going to be a really crazy aspect here to the Patriots defensive line, and I think that it's going to make Michigan fans just electric in their seats. But I also do have some questions. Now, how is he going to be in defending the run? Of course, we don't want just a kind of a one-dimensional type of guy and him transitioning to the NFL and also getting a much bigger workload here than he's going to be used to. And of course, he's going to be up against top-tier NFL talent. I also have questions on how is he going to be in coverage, okay? Because we're talking about versatility, but we haven't heard too much about how he's going to be in coverage. If he can't be a guy that's able to do much in coverage, he's either going to be an edge rusher or he's going to be a guy that the Patriots place in the middle of the field and become a blitzing linebacker, but just on those blitzing plays. Ultimately, though, a top-tier guy who is just amazing, proven at being able to get to the quarterback, and that's what the New England Patriots need. B+ here for his athleticism, for the player he is, but also for the connections he has with some of the other guys already on the Patriots team. Now, next up here, the Patriots moved on to the third round with pick number 87 overall. They selected another outside linebacker / edge rusher in Anthony Jennings, and I'm going to give this one an A-. I just think that this is the definition of a Bill Belichick New England Patriots player, and I'm super excited to see him play in our system. Him playing in Alabama, I think, is going to suit him really well when transitioning to a team like the New England Patriots. Of course, for those of you who don't know, Alabama, the coaches, very tough love, very strict, very hardcore, a lot like Bill Belichick, and a lot like the Patriots coaching staff and how they like to run the system. So Anthony Jennings is already kind of in that mindset. He has the work ethic. He knows what's expected. And of course, Bill Belichick loves Alabama, has some connections to Alabama. And I think the interesting part here is that Jennings' pro NFL comparison is Kyle Van Noy. One of the biggest needs for the Patriots this offseason is replacing Kyle Van Noy. And I think that this guy brings exceptional expectations here. What I really love about this move is the fact that the Patriots can place him on the edge if they want, kind of like a Kyle Van Noy. Let's remember that with Kyle Van Noy, he helped stuff the run. Kyle Van Noy helped in pass coverage, and he also helped in, of course, getting to the quarterback, whether that was setting the edge or just blitzing through the middle. Jennings is going to be a hard-nosed run defender who also loves to set the edge on the game, or loves to set the edge in the run game, rather. And I think that that's what the New England Patriots really need. Like I said with Uche, he's going to be more of a get-to-the-quarterback type of guy. I have question marks on about him stopping the run. The New England Patriots need a guy who's going to stop the run. And I just think Anthony Jennings is a guy who has the ability to do everything around the book all around, which the Patriots need after losing Jamie Collins and Kyle Van Noy, two guys who were able to do everything around the ball. He's a pretty fast guy who I also believe would not do too bad in coverage, but we're going to have to see a little bit more from it. Again, I think an A- here is just the perfect grade to give him. There are some question marks about him, but they're definitely limited. Now, next up in the third round, pick number 91 overall, the New England Patriots selected tight end Devin Asiasi, a guy that I gotta say it again, guys, a guy that I actually predicted going to the New England Patriots in my mock draft. Had him going later, but still predicted it. An A grade here for this selection in Devin Asiasi. I think that he is one of the better all-around tight ends that we're going to get here, but more specifically, we finally are going to get a guy who is going to help us in the passing game, a guy that the Patriots can place really anywhere on the field, whether they place him on the outskirts of the field or even if they want to place him in the slot, which I think they'll do more often, and have him go throughout the middle and the middle of the seam and then go down the field. He is going to be a day one contributor to the New England Patriots, and right now, I just don't see how anybody on the depth chart that we have right now, out of all the tight ends we have, is going to beat Devin Asiasi out of that first spot. He has decent speed to him. It's not going to be anything crazy, but at the same time, when has that ever been an attribute that Bill Belichick has truly looked for in a tight end? A short-handed guy who is going to be able to catch pretty much everything that is going to be thrown his way. He really has the best hands out of all tight ends in this entire draft class, does not drop balls, and I think that that's a big reason that Bill Belichick essentially drafted him. Now, he's going to be a guy that gets off the line a bit slower, and I do have some question marks about how is he able to get some separation, but because of that, we have seen more contested catches than not from him. I've seen so many people knocking on this guy's blocking. I think I watched a video from CBS where the guys gave him like a C or a C plus selection, and they basically said how he's not able to block at all and he's a mediocre tight end. Don't know where they got that from. I don't know if they were thinking of another tight end, but I could not disagree more. He has pretty average blocking skills, things that 100% can get better, and going into the NFL, it's going to be a bit tougher. But this guy played for Michigan, UCLA, some of the tougher schools in college football. It's not like he played for a lower-end, no-name college. Right now, there are some question marks about him, but I think that if we can get a nice offseason going with everything, of course, going on around the world, and Bill Belichick is able to work with him, he's able to kind of take some notes from some of the other veterans here on the Patriots or even other guys around the NFL, that he is going to be an every single down type of tight end here for the Patriots, kind of like Rob Gronkowski was. Overall, just a huge, huge fan of this signing. I don't really think the New England Patriots could have gone a better route. Now, next up in the third round, pick 101 overall, the New England Patriots traded up big time to select tight end out of Virginia Tech, Dalton Keane. A lot of people probably aren't going to agree with the grade I'm about to give this, but I'm going to give it a C+. For some reason, so many people just desperately love this signing. For some reason, I think that I've seen more people like the signing of Keane more than they liked the signing of Asiasi, which I think is just bizarre. But Keane was expected to be a 6th round selection. Okay, the Patriots picked him in the 3rd round, so that's already a big push at that. But what they gave up was pretty bizarre, okay? They gave up 2 4th round picks. That completely took them out of the 4th round and also gave up a 6th round pick for next year. Let's also remember that one of those picks that we got, one of those 4th round picks, was the pick we got from the trade of Rob Gronkowski. It also got me even more concerned when Bill Belichick himself said that they really don't know how the heck they are going to use him. They like what they've seen from him, which is ultimately why they selected him, but they don't know how they're going to use him. They don't know how he's going to fit into the Patriots system. And he even said that Virginia Tech versus the New England Patriots are complete bipolar opposites, which is very concerning considering he played years in college for one type of system, and now we're going to bring him over to the New England Patriots where it's the exact opposite from what he's always done. To me, just some very concerning pieces here to the puzzle, especially after trading so high for a guy to be selected in the 3rd round. To me, that is why I have such high expectations on Dalton Keane. You select him in the 3rd round, that is still fairly high in the draft, but the Patriots gave up so much compensation for him, which is why he is probably one of the top-notch guys when it comes to my expectation radar. Now, I don't want to knock on him too much, be a complete jerk to him, but he does bring some really good things, okay? He is versatile. You know, the Patriots could set him up at just a very big running back position. They can set him up at fullback. They can set him up at tight end, wherever they personally feel they need help with, which I think is a good attribute to have, having a guy that, look, if one position goes down, he has experience to go and play and help us out there. He's also going to help in the aspect of blocking. Now, he's pretty different in the aspect of Asiasi. I think a lot of people were telling me, especially on my live streams, hey, Patriots Global, do you think that we're going to be doing those 2 tight end sets now that we have 2 tight ends? And my honest to God answer was, at least for right now, I don't see that happening, at least with Dalton Keane. Maybe they have another tight end that they would like to pair up with Asiasi, but I don't see it being Asiasi and Keane for the fact that Keane is not much of a receiving threat. At least he has not shown that. He's more of a blocker. That's where he excels at. He was underutilized while at Virginia Tech, so I still think that there is a lot that potentially could come out of this guy. I think that he brings a very nice amount of potential, but the question mark is just going to be how can he convert over to the NFL and the New England Patriots, and just how are we going to use him? Like I mentioned, he hasn't done too much when it came to, the passing game, catching passes. He did have some times where he did that. What he was shown was that when he gets up on his hands, he is hard to get down. He is a bulldozer, which is something that I like about him. But at the same time, you do have to be good at catching the ball too. Let's remember that James Devlin had those really same attributes, okay? He was a guy hard to get down, a bulldozer, but he wasn't a guy that was too great at catching passes. Biggest thing here that the Patriots need to work on with Dalton Keane this offseason, though, is downfield route running, okay? If this guy can work on getting down the field better, he can work on running much, much, much more crisp routes, then maybe he's going to get utilized in the passing game a bit quicker. Now, next up in the 5th round with pick 159 overall, the New England Patriots selected a kicker in Justin Rowe. And the Bill Belichick definitely loves to select his special teams players in the 5th round. I think, all of us should have expected to have seen this coming. But I'm going to give this grade an A-. He wasn't a top prospect coming out of this year's draft, which I think is pretty crazy. I heard some people say that he was top 10, but ranked lower top 10. He wasn't a Blankenship or a Vinatieri or anything like that, but Rowe was the only kicker selected in this year's draft. I just think that he is going to fit the New England Patriots system very, very well, okay? He's a guy who's going to bring big weight, big height, ultimately just a big kicker who has a lot of weight behind his kicks, okay? He's a very clutch kicker. There's been multiple times where he has won games, last couple of seconds. He's got to kick a field goal to win the game. Multiple times he's done that in big games, under big pressure, under weather. That is the big thing here, okay? The Patriots don't want to get a guy who doesn't know how to play in cold weather, doesn't know how to play in hot weather, doesn't know how to play when it's raining or when it's snowing. Let's remember, the New England Patriots Stadium is outside. They take place in Boston, Massachusetts. The weather's crazy there. It's bipolar. Having a guy who knows how to actually play in all types of weather conditions is going to be huge in the NFL. Not to mention the fact that this guy has a big leg. He can kick from the 50. He can kick, I believe, from even like 55 yards. At his pro day, he only missed one kick, and that kick was from like 65, 67 yards. So honestly, I don't know what there is to not like about this draft pick. Honestly, from all of the other kickers that I heard of, this guy definitely 100% is my favorite. Wasn't really on my draft board, but now that we selected him, I'm super glad that he's the guy we went with. Now, moving on to the 6th round pick, 182 overall, the New England Patriots selected an offensive guard out of Michigan in Michael Anuenu. I'm going to give this selection a B. I actually like it. A lot of people feel that this could potentially be the steal of the draft for the New England Patriots. I think that getting him in the 6th round definitely could prove to be a very good selection here by the New England Patriots. Once you kind of reach that 6th to 7th round position in the draft, you're kind of like, all right, there's a guy we like, show some nice things, let's select him. It's nothing like it is in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or even 4th. He's a big offensive guard. If you look at the pictures of him, you look at his gameplay, you will see that he's a guy that stands out for sure. I think that with the right coaching, with some time, he could become a nice starting guard in the NFL. But I think until that happens, until he truly does develop and work on his technique, get just under wraps in the NFL, then I think just right now he's going to be a nice backup piece. A guy that definitely does excel in helping in pass protection also. What I also like about him, again, is the fact that he's coming from a school like Michigan. It isn't a lackluster college team. It doesn't have mediocre competition. It's a school that you're going to get some top-notch competition, which is exactly what I want to see from a guy heading into the NFL, where it is top-level toughness. This is where the elite of the elite are playing. So him having experience with some more top-notch elite players, I think is going to be very beneficial. Now, next up in the 6th round, pick number 195 overall, the New England Patriots selected another offensive lineman. This one's going to be an offensive tackle, Dustin Herman. I've seen some people saying he's a guard, some people saying he's a tackle. I've seen more of him being a tackle than a guard. I also think that the New England Patriots need more of a tackle at this point. I think that they're pretty stacked on guards after taking a guard last pick. I think that the route we're going to be going here with Herman is going to be tackle. But I do like that he brings that versatility to play guard or tackle. B+ signing here by the New England Patriots. What they got in the 6th round, just like they did with Anuenu, is pretty spectacular. I like what they got. I think that these are guys that truly could excel with time, could potentially be starting pieces, but until then, I think will be nice backup pieces that will help build the Patriots offensive line in case they get banged up with injuries like they did this past season. What I like a lot about him is going to be his footwork, his speed, his athleticism. He's not a slow guy. He can really help get off the line with some of the faster defensive prospects, whether that's linebackers setting the edge, whether that's just faster defensive ends off the line. He's going to be a guy that is able to keep up with them. So he's not going to be a guy that is super slow and sluggish. The best comparison I can say would be like a Marshall Newhouse. Marshall Newhouse got beat so many times this past season because he's just slow. He's sluggish. And because of that, defensive linemen were able to get off the line quick and get around him. That's not going to be the same thing whatsoever with Dustin Herman. Now, he does have some issues with his hands and his technique. Those are things that easily with time can be taught, can be just ironed out, those wrinkles. But I love the fact that he brings things to the New England Patriots. He brings these attributes that you just can't teach. And that's exactly what you want in a young guy who is developing. He's a guy that for sure with time could potentially become a nice starting piece. Now, next up, the New England Patriots drafted linebacker Cash Malawia, a 6th round pick, 204 overall, coming out of Wyoming. And I am going to give this one a B. I think that the New England Patriots are getting pretty nice value here for it being in the 6th round, for it being a late 6th round pick at that. I think that he's a guy that we haven't seen at all throughout this draft class. He brings attributes that he could really help in pass coverage here on defense at that linebacker position. Every other person that the New England Patriots have drafted here on defense, I'm talking about the linebackers, the edge rusher, Uche, Jennings, those haven't been guys that have been able to be ball hoggers, to really track the ball down and make an interception. Cash has been able to do that really every single year throughout his time in college. He's recorded at least one interception each season, which is something that I really like, because you look at Kyle Van Noy, you look at the departure, even a guy like Jamie Collins was probably an even bigger one. Those have been guys that have been able to excel in covering the pass and helping defend the pass and being able to be ball hogs and coming down with interceptions. I do think that there is a good amount of upside here. He has really nice athleticism and really just attributes that he could come in year one and be a really nice piece on defense. He's a quick linebacker, which I like also. He has experience really everywhere on special teams, which could make him an every down special teams threat. So, look, if it doesn't work out with him as a linebacker, he could be a guy that Bill Belichick essentially uses just as a special teams guy. I do have some concerns, though. He has had a good amount of off-the-field issues. Is he going to be able to stay clean, or is he going to be a guy that he's going to be suspended some games because he's constantly having issues? Also, coming out of Wyoming, how is he going to pair up with much better offenses that are in the NFL, having to cover much better running backs out of the backfield, or even covering within the middle of the field and having some top-notch tight ends or even fast wide receivers coming up against him? But all in all, though, in the 6th round, I like the pick. Now, the Patriots' last pick, which was in the 7th round, pick 240 overall, the New England Patriots selecting Dustin Woodard, the center out of Memphis. I'm going to give this one a B-. I don't think there's going to be too much to say about this one. If this guy is able to make the roster, I think it's going to be a miracle. I think that the best case scenario for him is going to be either getting back onto the Patriots practice squad, or Bill Belichick is going to do what Bill Belichick loves to do year in and year out with his draft class, and give them a ghost injury that puts them on the injured reserve before the start of the season to make sure he has them under wraps so no other team can touch them, but they're able to come back the following offseason and fight for the job again. Another guy that brings some versatility to either the guard or center position. I think it's going to be more center 100% than it is going to be guard. The New England Patriots do need some depth at the center position also. Let's look at the fact that David Andrews, their starting center, missed all of last season with blood clots in his lungs. That's a very big deal. Now, he's expected to be back. He's expected to be all good for the start of the 2020 season, but the Patriots also lost their backup center in Ted Karras, so depth is 100% needed now. Just because the Patriots don't necessarily have starting centers doesn't mean that this guy slips into that second role. I still think that he kind of fits into that third or fourth position right now. Let's remember that Jermaine Illuminor, the guard, he has some center experience, along with the guy that the New England Patriots selected in the 2019 draft in Yelda Froholt. There's not going to be too much to say about this guy. If you really want to know a bit about him from the little bit I found, you can go ahead and check out the video I made for the draft signing. But I mean, hey, all in all, it's late 7th round pick, and the New England Patriots are adding depth at center, B-. So my final draft grade for the New England Patriots is going to be a B-. I definitely struggled with having a B- or a B. It was really kind of just a hair in between, but ultimately I just went with a B- because there are some question marks with some of these signings, and also how are they going to fit within the New England Patriots system. Something that I feel that is a popular name for this year's draft class is going to be potential. Okay? I think that so many guys of this year's draft class have potential, but I think that it's going to take a little bit of time for the Patriots to figure out how they're going to use them, or even for these guys to develop. I feel like a lot of these guys in this year's draft class this year's draft class are going to be developmental guys that I think were great selections, but maybe won't necessarily be big contributors in year one. Because of that, I kind of have to look at this and go, all right, they aren't guys that are necessarily, this isn't a draft class that necessarily coming in, year one is going to be big playmakers and big names jumping off the board. So because of that, it did take the draft status down a little bit, which is ultimately why I went with B- rather than B. Some people might say that that's way too low. Some people might even say that that's way too high, as I've seen a lot of people giving the Patriots a C to C+ grade for the entire draft class, but this is my own personal opinion going through the entirety of the draft class. So what are your guys' thoughts on this? Let me know what you're feeling in the comment section below. Like this video, guys. It took a while to make, so it would mean a lot if you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news, but other than that, I will catch you guys in my next video.